There we go. Okay, now we can get started. So with this image, I see things to grab onto, okay? Namely the perspective lines and the dark figure in the center. All right. Um, Also, compared to some of those other images that I was looking at, like the Hiroshige and even the Monet painting of the magpie, um, there is a bit of white space and white snow, but even though this is a snowy scene, don't think so much in white. All right. Look at the ground and notice how blue parts of it may be. Look at the sky and notice how gray it may be. In some of the other images, there was going to be a lot of intricate shapes of white to protect on your paper. And I figured, I remember copying this image when I was in art school, so I figured it'll be a good one for us to practice on. And it's wintry vibes. So you all get started on C Slay on the left, okay? I am just going to do a couple things to get my setup ready to go here. Um, no, it's actually not how I want that to go. See, I almost wonder if I do that, would I be able to fit more? But no, I'm not going to play with it. Just keep it. I'll keep it there. And I'll do a little focus lock. Where's my brush? Excuse my delay, everyone. I am getting used to my setup here at my mom's place again. Mm, All right, everyone. So you should have started working by now. I'm going to jump in just a moment. I've already talked about the National Gallery last week and about the next practice hour, and I will be sure to share the links with you all in just in during this session. Just want to remind you all some guidelines and reminders for the practice hour. This is an opportunity for us artists to get practice. It's not a class. I don't have a lesson planned. When working from a masterwork like this Sisley on the left, the goal is not to make a forgery, but to have your own experience with the masterwork. Practice putting together whatever key relationships and essential elements you see. Make your own parallel image with your own touch. It can still be an opportunity to learn. I'll be sharing insights about my process as the session unfolds. Feel free to ask questions. However, if you don't have something you want to say, Please remain muted to eliminate any distracting background noise. And likewise, if you're in the zone and just want to work, feel free to mute me. Special thank you to our returning participants, our loyal artists in the practice hour who regularly contribute. We are happy to offer this monthly online practice hour at no cost to our community. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation to support the mission of the Leo Marchutz School of Painting and Drawing. And I will share the link for that as well. Okay, but let's get a little bit of painting in. Yeah, I am utterly surrounded by painting supplies here, so I am not quite as quick to reach for the supplies I need, but that's okay. We'll make our way through this. It is just practice, after all. Okay, so I'm studying this image on the left. I'm studying it in terms of light and dark, trying to analyze what layers of color I can begin with. And I'm noticing how much of the lightest lights occur sort of in this right central, it's not a quadrant, but if you think of the rule of thirds or tic-tac-toe board, that center right sort of square in this rectangle. So I think I'm going to begin with graying out most of everything else. And then maybe getting a little bit creative with my brush, maybe even my spray bottle in that area here on the right to create a texture that will make that tree and that wall and preserve all those light spaces in it. So I'm actually going to start with mixing my gray. So I'm taking advantage of the sort of way that my spray bottle distributes water. And I'm going to use that to handle some of the texture in that right area there. But for right now, I just want to get everything else pretty grayed out, and maybe a little bit bluer towards the bottom. So here I'm just trying to touch my brush to the droplets I have on the right. That's it, not done. Just to create that texture of that tree on the right. Mm, do the same on the left. Let's get a little bit of this tree in here. Maybe we'll start doing some of the wall texture here. And I might start scrubbing away. I made the ground way too dark. I like the blue, but it's just the value of it is way too dark. Um, so might start scrubbing at it just to bring some of it back to light. Okay. Do that. There we go. So here I'm trying to shape the path a little bit. That snowy path, making it a little bit lighter on the right side than the left side because that's what I see in the painting. That's good enough for now. But now it really looks like, now that I've moved a lot of that blue pigment to the left side of the path, pointing with my cursor here. Actually, I'll do it with my brush. Now just that little bit of dark on the left side of this path really makes this snowy pathway feel like it's traveling backward in space. Right. Not bad, not bad. So something I like to do when I'm in between teaching seasons like this, when I'm on vacation at home, I like to play with things that I don't normally play with, like if I was teaching a class. So I've had a few of these around for a while. Maybe some of you have seen these water brushes, these brushes that hold reservoirs, that have reservoirs to hold water in them so that you don't really have to use a cup. I'm always interested in things that allow me to carry less. I really don't like having a lot of materials with me. I'm a little bit of a minimalist. So when I'm going out to paint and sketch, the thought of not having to carry water with me and just be able to make sketches with some of these water brushes is really appealing to me. So I'm going to play a little bit with this today. I think it would be a good opportunity. So I'm going to start by reshaping this wall on the left. I'm not totally happy with this shape, so I'm going to scrub a little bit. I have no pigment on my brush. I just have a wet brush, and I'm trying to remove some of the pigment that's in certain places that have sort of smothered up the shape of the wall that I would like to have. So I'm going to start getting some of that warm orange tone in here. So here I'm trying to bring in some of those walls and maybe some of the architecture in the back even. Just the light yellow warm tone that sort of acts as the complement to all the cool happening in this image. I'll get to like the darks that are happening in it later, but I just want to have that wall there. I'm trying to preserve certain parts of the painting as white so that there's still that snow. Everything looks a little bit snow-capped. My eye keeps going back to this area where that architecture is sort of rising above the wall in the distance in the background. And I can feel the battle inside of me of my mind being like, no, Nick, you should work on larger general shapes. But my senses being like just really curious about everything that's happening here. Right now, I'm trying to save some of the white again with scrubbing. I want to get that diagonal roof there. And maybe I'm, scrutinizing a little too closely instead of looking for, there's lots of other larger general things in this image that I have yet to resolve, but I can't help it. Sometimes I just want to paint what my eye goes to and trust that, I'll get all the way around to the rest of the image. So, use a stiffer brush to scrub. Scrubbing's not going too well, but let me be patient. Let me keep trying. It's a little bit better. There we go. All right, that wall is starting to shape up, look nice and snow-capped in the distance there. All right. So again, I'm just really going with where my eye is going and sticking around back here. Just want to get the shapes and the colors that I see there. So now this tree in the distance is starting to come into shape. So oops, there's a little too much water happening there. Soften you up. And also, when I'm painting in watercolor, something I really like doing, you saw how I got my paper wet and I kind of just put some colors down, let them do their thing, let them dance and bleed into one another and really stain the page. But they make all these shapes, okay? And as I'm painting, like right now, I'm working on this tree in the right, okay? And I see all these cool blue shapes between the areas of snow. When I look at the white, where the white untouched paper is on my paper and where the paint landed, I try and follow the natural organic shapes that are formed on my paper instead of trying to correct what's on my paper to make it look more like the image. I want, again, I'm making something that is parallel to the original. It's not a forgery, it's not a replica. So I want it to have its own, identity and shape. So I really get a lot of joy. It's very satisfying following the shapes that are already on my paper. So like even the contour of this snow, okay, on the right wall here, I'm not going to try and correct it to make it more straight. I'm just going to follow with my brush. I'm just going to follow the boundary that naturally has formed there. In painting, I often think it's important to harness and uplift, cultivate what is already on the page, as opposed to trying to apply um, sort of an external standard or reference onto it too harshly. Good enough there. And work my way to the other side. Maybe let's get some of those trees in the background up top real quick. There we go. This back area is starting to come into focus nicely. I'll switch to a warmer tone for these winter trees that are a little bit closer. A little more color in there while it's nice and wet. It's getting blue. It'll cool it down a little bit. It's a little too orange right now, but I also want to get a little bit of green in there. Switch to a little bit slightly more green tone. Go. A little bit of earth tone. And we'll get into this. Maybe a little too overtly green. No, it still works. It works. And then we'll just take some of that moisture and those gray tones and start bringing it into the tree underneath it. Again, just trying to follow the shapes that are already on my paper. Oops, nope, that's way too just burnt sienna. There we go. We gotta something a little more neutral than that. That was way too warm. Mhm. So now I'm going to start switching to some of the darks and things that I see in the wall. I see those really dark trunks, that really dark trunk on the left side above the wall. I'll get to that later. Right now I want to get into some of these colors that are happening in the wall. So just for your information, let's go for about 15 more minutes, okay, on this image. And then we'll take a little group screenshot of all the work that we've done. But 15 more minutes here. So I'm going to keep going in that direction, get a little bit darker, start getting those darks at the bottom left, at the very bottom of the wall. Okay. Darken that corner at the bottom. Get a little bit more inside some of those trees there. Hmm. I think in the time remaining, I could do a little bit on the wall on the right, and then get that central figure, and then maybe some of those super dark darks, like on the wall on the left, the trunk, that sort of vertical parallelogram right next to the trunk. All right, let's see. Maybe my door's a little too tall, but that's okay. I will just try and darken the bottom of it. It's rather dark bottom happening here, so I'm gonna try and just make it blend in like that. So now I can tell that I'm naturally moving into my darkest darks. So let me pick up some of this. Okay. Just get some of these branches in. That. If that's gonna be that dark, that should be that dark. Start working on the man in the center. Maybe a little bit warmer for that guy. Maybe a couple branches. The tree on the right, or in both trees actually. Let's do. You deserve some branches. There we go. So one up here. A little more articulation underneath the snow on that house. All right, everyone, let's continue for about 6 more minutes. So maybe take a moment, look at your image, try and determine what may need to be done to bring balance, wholeness, cohesion to what you've been working on. I am going to try to lighten up the ground a little bit more. As good as I could do for now. Of course, looking at it, when you sit back and you look at it with fresh eyes, there's all sorts of things I could just, I don't want to get too nitpicky, but I could definitely darken some of these areas with a little more warmth. Ah, this was nice. I'm looking out at the sun, and I'll admit, right up until maybe 10 minutes before the practice hour started, I was just watching TV, which is good, you know, gotta really let go into vacation mode sometimes. I'm working on a watercolor painting for my nephew of a few characters from his favorite movie, or at least what his favorite movie was last year. Um, and I've started it, and I'm hoping to finish it today because I need to get it to um, his mother midweek, and I want to get it framed and such. But this was a really nice way to get up from in front of the television and warm up with some painting, and sort of get prepared for a whole afternoon of painting as I try and finish this Christmas gift. All right, everyone, how about one more minute with this image? So start wrapping up the part of the painting you are working on. And then I will quickly put two links in the chat for everyone. The links will be for one will be a Zoom registration link for January 4th, our next practice hour, and the first one of 2026. And then finally, a donation link for the Leo Marchutz School of Painting and Drawing. I liked working with these. Okay. I didn't really use this one very much, my flat square one, maybe for other larger formats, but I really got a kick out of using this little guy. So I'll definitely be playing with these more often. I'm hoping I can get a little bit more I could use them to be a little bit more like I'm drawing in my watercolor paintings. All right, everyone. I am going to remove this all. So I will stop sharing my screen. And real quick, I want to just put, here we go. January 4th. I'll add at 1 p.m. Eastern. So here's the first link, everyone. Be sure to click on this, and you can minimize the window, but just have it on your computer so that you can register for January 4th's practice hour. And also, if you'd like to make a donation, I'll put this link in the chat as well. Excellent. So click on those links now so you have them open even after we wrap up this session. I'd love to see your work. If you'd care to hold it up for a moment, I'll grab a quick screenshot of what we all did today. And then it will be lunchtime, at least for me. So show me what you've got. I'll take a quick screenshot. Nice work. Dale, beautiful. Dale, is that a drawing? Yeah, looks like it. Nice work,
Charcoal.
Barbara. What's that, Dale?
Charcoal.
Charcoal. Beautiful. Nice work, Katie. Look at those
Yeah, it's a
perspective
long
lines.
story, but my brush, I don't have any brushes here, so this is pastel, which I'm just a
Nice.
rank beginner at.
Yeah, pastel can take some getting used to, but nice work bringing some new media into this, everyone. Nice work, Judith. I like the tones there. All right, everyone. Excellent. Got it. Nice work, Debbie. Very soft. Very soft.
Yeah, some of my snow melted, but
Some of your snow melted. Some of the snow is melting outside right here.
Can
All
you
right, everyone.
send that link by email? Because when I clicked on it, I don't know where I went.
Yeah, of course. For registration for the next one?
Yeah.
I'm late.
Yeah, no problem. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me at the
Thank
National
you.
Gallery one more time. It's great having some of you in here and seeing you in person earlier this month.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah, happy
Merry
Christmas to
Christmas.
you.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
holidays to
Happy
everyone.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy painting. I hope that keeps
Happy
you grounded
holidays.
while the holiday madness ensues. I'll see you all in a few weeks, all right?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Bye.
everyone.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.